Your masters aren't worth shit if your music is not being heard, right? Your publishing isn't worth shit if your music isn't being heard or it's not being played. Most music that gets uploaded to Spotify doesn't get played at all, right? So if you're in that camp where your music isn't being played, your masters are worth all of $0. Your publishing is worth all of $0.
Peace, what's going down? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club. My name is DJ Payne 1. Yes, I still have coronavirus. It doesn't go easily, apparently. His name is Dame Ritter.
That's not a funny joke, man. I definitely feel like the coronavirus is worse than what our media is telling us that it is. Yeah, I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I mean, I'm not saying hide in a bunker and buy 2 months supply worth of food, but I even heard this morning that they might cancel the Olympics if they don't get it under control within the next 3 months or so. But it's definitely wreaked havoc on our markets because a lot of people over there aren't going to work. So they're not making the stuff that we need because most of the shit we get here is from China. So a shortage of products, and I know I took this down a hole that we didn't want to go, but I don't want to be an alarmist. I don't want to be any type of Alex Jones type figure or anything like that. But I think it's worse than what our media even understands, maybe.
Yeah, this is really going to affect our Nike supply. No, seriously, please wash your damn hands. I feel like 99% of all epidemics could be prevented if people just wash their hands. How many people, you go into public bathrooms sometimes and you'll see a dude that's in there 10 minutes. You can hear him in the stall just, and then he walks out. Yeah, and then he walks out, looks at you, nods, and goes straight out the door. Doesn't even look. And then some people do like the splish splash, fingertip water spa treatment. The fact that you're endangering my life should make me able to punch you in the mouth in self-defense because your germs could potentially cause a lot of devastation. I think that's a topic worth covering in a future episode.
That's how they do it in Madison, how they don't be washing their hands after they take a shit. That's all bad.
Oh, you think they don't do that in California, Dan? Because California's just so health conscious? Wait a minute. Yeah. California is the home of the anti-vaccine movement, so you got germs over there.
There's germs everywhere, but I ain't never seen nobody do what you just described.
You've never seen somebody defecate and then just walk out the stall?
I don't think so. Maybe I don't be paying attention like that. I mean, there's definitely a lot of cats that take a piss and don't wash their hands or whatever. But never mind. Hey, man, let's get this podcast started. That's out of control.
It's just if people are watching right now and they. It's like the MTA rules. If you see something, say something. I'm not trying to shame people, but don't be nasty. Come on.
Why? Okay, let's just bring this back to music somehow, some way. So you definitely wash your hands and definitely wash this. It's super important when you're on tour to keep hand sanitizer, wash your hands. Because there's definitely a lot of germs when you guys are on tour. Especially if you have a lot of fans that want to shake your hands and do all that stuff. It's almost guaranteed that on every single tour, somebody's going to get sick. And if you're in close quarters, if you're in a van, or a small bus or whatever, then it starts to spread around. So, I had to bring this back to music somehow, some way. So wash your hands. If you don't take anything away from this podcast, after this, just make sure you wash your damn hands on a regular basis.
No, I get sick about 3 times per tour because of that. In Europe, though, a big thing, I'm coughing to emphasize the sickness. The big reason is because they just let people smoke wherever. I think technically it's illegal to smoke, but they just don't care. So that messes my immune system up because I'm privileged being in the United States where they ban smoking in public areas. So anyway, you wanted to say something incendiary that's gonna ruffle some feathers as usual.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't ever intend to just ruffle feathers for the sake of ruffling feathers. But and I posted about it. I posted about this recently on our Instagram and on Twitter. But the game recently made some tweets posting about how artists should remain independent, how artists are getting signed to slave deals. They should just own their masters, do everything independently. And I just think we need to balance that message out, right? Because I don't think it's a bad message, but I think that, no one route is for everybody. Some, depending on what your goals are, you might need a major label to accomplish your goals. Going independent is always an option, and it's going to be an option for most people, because most people aren't offered a major label deal anyway. So this decision doesn't even pertain to you. But being independent is not easy. Especially if you want a lot of success independently. Setting up your independent operations, learning how to do merch properly, learning how to tour properly, learning how to, understand publishing, make sure you're collecting your publishing. Like it's essentially like five businesses in one. And not that you're doing this yourself, like you need to build out a team, but it's not an easy thing to do. So I just think that it's kind of ridiculous when an artist that has benefited from a major label, 10, 15, 20 years later says, hey, you should go independent. Well, you didn't go that route. I don't think you quite understand how difficult it is to go independent and have similar success to what he has had, because that's rare, right? There's not that many independent artists that are as big as the game. Maybe now, but like the game was a pretty big artist in his prime. And there's not very many independent artists that have reached the level of success of the game independently.
And there aren't
Maybe.
very many independent labels that are giving out the kinds of advances that G Unit was giving out at the time when he signed either.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think maybe Chance. Like when we're talking about that, it's like maybe Chance, maybe Tech. But like the game has, he's worth millions. And it's not that often that independent artists like get to the level of success. Even if he doesn't own his masters, even if he doesn't own all his publishing, at the end of the day, like he has more money than, the top tier independent artists. And I just think we need to balance that message out. Not to deter anybody, not to scare anybody, but to give people the real when it comes to, just different routes to success in the music industry.
Yeah, I mean, I look at those comments and I think, well, for someone who has what somebody like the game has going independent at this point, I think for an artist like the game, that might be a smart move at this point in his career. But for you see the people who respond to that, and these are aspiring artists who've never had any kind of deal, period, independent or otherwise, and they look at it and think, okay, well, if the game is saying it, then independent deals must be amazing. They must be structured in such a way where they're just so beneficial to the artist. And realistically, obviously there's less money in signing to an independent, and the deals are structured really similarly. It's a record deal. It's a recording deal. I mean, you're still likely going to have to give up some ownership to the label, independent or otherwise. And maybe, we look at independents like they're closer knit because maybe they're small. I mean, we look at Strange Music, and granted, that's a great label, and a lot of the artists there, they treat each other like family, but they're still signed to a label, and there are some people who are really happy with their major label deal too.
Right. Well, I was assuming that he was talking about just do it yourself, right? Like, so just get a distribution deal. I don't think he was referring to like signing to an independent label. That's what I was assuming. But I just think it's unfair for an artist that takes advantage of the major label system, now has, tens of millions of followers on social media, has gotten an opportunity to be on TV. Of course, it's easy to be independent now that you have all of these fans, because it's going to be a much easier, he might not have the success, the platinum records that he once had, but now he has hella fans that are connected to him via social media. And hopefully, I mean, I doubt he has an email list or a text marketing list, but he can easily start those things and start going direct to fans and make a cool living. But most independent artists are not going to have the opportunity to like have a lot of capital infused into their situation, and to have like a global team working on, your presence globally, and have radio, to get to that point. The normal independent grind is a lot different than that. It's scratching and clawing every single day, to just keep building on small wins. So I just want to balance out that message, because I don't think he's the one. He didn't go the independent route, so I don't think he understands that. He understands it now that he has a shitload of followers, and it's easy to make that decision to just say, okay, now I'm going to do a deal with Empire and, be independent, but people already know my name.
Yeah, and independent is Empire is a top tier independent also. And if you're the game, you're going to walk into a situation with Empire with a lot more attention given by the label than if, somebody down the street just got Empire distribution and they feel like they're at that same level as the game, and they're not. Just because you have Empire distribution, there are different, there are levels to this, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and the last thing I said this probably on another podcast, but like, master owner, your masters aren't worth shit if your music is not being heard, right? Your publishing isn't worth shit if your music isn't being heard or it's not being played. So, when Game says, own your masters, like a lot of independent artists, the reality is, for most music that gets uploaded to Spotify doesn't get played at all, right? So if you're in that camp where your music isn't being played, your masters are worth all of $0. Your publishing is worth all of $0. So, and you probably wouldn't, if your masters and publishing is worth $0, you're not going to be given a deal. But I'm saying, if somebody comes in and wants to partner with you and truly take your shit to another level, like truly get your stuff out there, if you are a priority at a major label one day, it's worth entertaining the conversation, right? Because, depending on the team you have around you, how resourceful you are, a major label could make a lot of sense for you, depending on, what your end goal is for your music. So just don't shut off these conversations. Don't turn down things just because the game tells you to. Balance your options, do your research, and understand that you might have to craft your own journey, because there's a lot of routes to success within the music industry. That's all.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of good points, and I think the one big point is we're having this conversation. A lot of like you said, musicians that are at a point where their catalog isn't generating any kind of income, they're already skipping to the point of the conversation where they're negotiating deal terms in their heads. And really, they just need to be focusing on their content. And it's not just rappers. I hear producers saying that all the time. I don't want to get sued if I use a splice sample, or I don't want to have a problem with one of these major contracts. It's like, right now, you just need to make better sounding tracks. So let's we just overwhelm ourselves and create problems where there aren't problems. And if the game is talking about going independent, that's a great conversation for him. It doesn't really apply to most people.
Yeah.
And I think you actually said that in your post, that the vast majority of people even watching that video shouldn't concern themselves with this topic at this point.
Right. You just bust your ass where it's a decision that you actually have to make one day, right? Because right now it's not a decision that you need to make. So I hope that everybody listening to this does actually have to make this decision one day, because that means you are making progress. That means you have gotten to a point where, other people want to invest in your career, and other people want to, help and build what you have going on. But most people aren't even there yet. So don't get hyped up. There's just a lot of hoopla around, like, own your masters, be independent, and it's just being forced onto artists, where I think that the message just gets, it just gets warped. Like it's not what you guys need to be hearing. We need to balance it out, and hopefully the discussion we just had helps balance out that discussion for for some people that keep hearing this message.
So quickly, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while. I just think it's interesting. It's a conversation neither of us are really qualified. I don't think anyone's qualified to have this conversation necessarily, but people will always speculate. So a couple weeks ago, I read an article in High Snobiety online, and the article was called 10 Rappers to Watch in 2020. And their whole assertion was that melodic trap is too predictable and emo rap is outdated. So I guess they're kind of looking at like the Little Skies and the Little Babies and Young Thugs of the world and saying, yeah, that's not going to be around for much longer. So what's next? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because look at Roddy Ricch and the year he's having. But a bunch of the rappers, actually one of the rappers that they said to watch, and this is tragic, one of the 10 rappers they said to watch in 2020 was Pop Smoke. So rest in peace. But obviously that style that he was bringing to the forefront was very different from a Little Skies or Juice World. So what is next? And I remember there was some talk, and I haven't seen it happen yet, but there was some talk, after we had, the after we lost Lil Peep and Juice World and countless other high-profile celebrities to drug addiction, there was talk of some kind of straight-edge subgenre rising in the mainstream. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, though, but I certainly think it's a possibility, but it wouldn't be because of a shift in the paradigm of rap. I think it would be a shift in the paradigm of youth culture.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not qualified to give predictions on what's going to be like the major sound next year. However, what I will say is that I keep finding new artists that do all types of music that are doing really well, right? So as an artist, and I don't mean to just poo-poo the question, but like I don't know, but I know that there's a lane for a lot of shit. So, and there's more lanes to be created. So for artists that, I would never like encourage an artist to follow a trend because I think this is going to be hot next year, right? Like there's artists doing positive stuff, there's artists, doing drug stuff, there's artists doing, still gangster stuff, and I see a lot of pockets working. So I think that's the positive thing about where we're at today. Matter of fact, there was a cat that had reached out to us, or the manager of an artist, and you may already be familiar with him. I wasn't, but his name's Xavier Wolf.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
So I guess he was formerly of the Raider clan. I didn't know who he was at all, but I looked, and he has like 1 million monthly listeners, and I'm listening to his stuff, and it's a lot different than what you're talking about in terms of like the melodic and stuff like that. So what it goes to show is that there's lanes to be filled and there's lanes to be created, and we have the means to get to fans, to, if they don't already know they like this music, to maybe educate them and introduce them to something new. And that's why I think it's such a beautiful time for music, because there's so many different types of artists. It might the mainstream might be like the more melodic Roddy Ricch type stuff, and there may be a lot of people that fall into that category. But there's a lot of people doing other stuff that are winning right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, Eminem just went gold. He signed. He signed them. So you have the rise of Roddy Ricch on the one hand, and then the undeniable success of Griselda. They didn't get nominated. Benny the Butcher didn't get nominated for a Grammy the way Roddy Ricch did. But are they not successful? Yeah, they're definitely succeeding, and in a major way. So I guess I certainly laugh at the conversation of all music sounds the same, all rap sounds, because we've been having that stupid ass conversation since the 90s. And it's just that's not going to change. People hear something on the radio they don't like, and they automatically go to Twitter and talk about how much all rap is homogenous. But I'm one of those people that likes I like everything. I mean, I mostly listen to dancehall, but I like Roddy Ricch a lot. I like Lil B when he just freestyles and it sounds great. I like the first X song, Look at Me. I liked 6ix9ine's music a lot, and all and it's all very different. I like Tierra Whack and JID and Earth Gang, all very different. There's some stuff I can't stand, and it is doing very well.
Yeah.
I just because there's this whole ugly scandal about this group called Blood on the Dance Floor. I wasn't familiar with their music. I'm like, oh, let me check it out. I did not like it, not even a little bit. But it was very successful. It's just not for me. So I look, and it's hard for me when people ask me to, judge their music or critique their music, because there's something for everybody out there.
Yeah, no, there is. I can't even say that I listen to that much music anymore. I'm more podcasts and YouTube videos. But there's a lot of stuff out there. And a lot of music's being streamed, evidenced by the recent article that I posted in the Facebook group, which everybody should join our Facebook group. Let me just advertise the Facebook group real quick, because Z from DJ Booth posted about like some artist getting taken advantage of, thinking, I think he got sold, some scammer sold him a spot on Rolling Loud to open up like right before Young Thug. And what does this have to do about the Facebook group? So what this does have to do about the Facebook group is that anytime you guys are approached with an opportunity that seems too good to be true, before you spend your money, I would encourage you to just post about it in our Facebook group and just let people chime in, right? Just let people chime in before you waste your money. But anyway,
yeah, but don't be one of those confirmation bias people too, because that's what I can't stand. When someone comes by and goes, "Hey, Def Jam just offered me a deal. I just got to pay $900. What do you think?" And I instantly say that's a scam. If someone had posted that Rolling Loud performance opportunity or DM'd it to me, I would have just given them the eyes rolling emoji. Because come on, common sense tells you that's a freaking scam. Because if it's offered to you, everybody on your street would have a slot at Rolling Loud. Everyone on your street would have a Def Jam deal. But a lot of the people that you tell this to, doesn't matter how many people say that's a scam, don't do it, they still might feel like they're going to do it. And yeah, I appreciate you guys sharing your opinions, but I'm just going to try it out and see. $900 later, $2,000 later, they're mad as hell talking about the industry's trash and they're about to quit. That was their choice.
Well, even if they decide to follow through and waste their money, hopefully after that experience, they're like, wow, those guys at the MEC know what they're talking about. Maybe I should sign up and join for $12.99 a month. I don't know if that would happen, but
definitely
that's what should happen. We just hope that you don't have to spend thousands of dollars losing your money when you can just get an annual membership, for a fraction of that and join all of our sessions. So, yeah. But hey, why did I talk about the Facebook group? The article in the Facebook group. One of the articles I posted in the Facebook group said that now major labels are earning $1 million an hour on streaming services. So that's collectively. That's not any one major label, but the combination of them. They're basically earning $1 million an hour, and I just thought that was, a pretty incredible statistic. Payne, what's your immediate reaction knowing that major labels are now earning $1 million an hour?
Well, check it out. Let's do the math. That's 24 million a day generated off of streaming, and that's split among every major label. But how many majors are there? 4, I think, right? 4.
Sony, Warner, and Universal.
Let's just say 4 instead of 3. That's still $6 million generated a day for every major label just off of one income stream. That's right. Insane. I mean, on the one hand, I know that must be vindicating for you because you're the guy that's constantly arguing with the narrative that no one can make any money off of streaming. Obviously, labels have an advantage in the streaming space because one, they have deals with the platforms, two, they have the popular artists that are generating the most streams, and three, because they're the owners of that music, they stand to gain the most out of those royalties. But it does show you how much money there is in streaming.
Yeah, and I think that, when people look at it on a per stream basis, like they don't understand like how quickly those streams could grow, like if you're successful, right? Like if you develop a loyal following that's constantly streaming your music, those fractions of pennies do add up. And you have a global reach, like more and more people continue to sign up for streaming services. There are new streaming services that continue to present themselves in emerging markets. There's just a great opportunity now, and I would just encourage you guys not to be skeptical, right? Because I'm seeing literally people winning. Like I know a lot of artists. I still get checks from our catalog, from the Funk Volume catalog, that is no longer promoted and it just sits there, but it continues to be streamed. So I'm telling you that there is money in streaming. You have to develop a fan base that consistently streams your music. Futuristic was on the MEC. He was my guest on the MEC the last week, and or this past week, and he makes a good amount of money, via streaming. So just don't be skeptical. And I guess if you are skeptical, that just, plays to the advantage of the people that are putting their heads down, putting in the work, because it's taking some competition out of the market. But, there's a very streaming, it should be one of your revenue sources, like, but it can be maybe for a lot of artists, it's their top revenue source, right? In addition to, syncs and merch and crowdfunding and YouTube and all this other publishing. For a lot of artists, music from streaming is their number one revenue source.
Yeah, and it goes without saying that the way people consume music is streaming focused in the sense that we used to listen to a CD. If I listen to a CD by myself, or if I play a song that I purchased off of iTunes 5 years ago at an event, not an event like a party at my house or whatever, which don't really exist because I'm antisocial, but no one's getting paid off of me playing that purchased CD or that purchased MP3. But what do people do now at social gatherings? I guess I don't really know because I don't attend many of those, but I imagine someone turns on Pandora or Spotify, or they have a playlist that they listen to. They're listening to that in their car if they're not tuned into terrestrial or satellite radio. And so any one of those channels, whether it's terrestrial, satellite, or Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, is generating money for the artists they're listening to. So now you have this. Look, I don't think Dame or I would ever in a million years disagree with the notion that these royalty rates need to increase. They absolutely do. I'd love to see them increase. But they do seem really low. But every time the music is being consumed, and people don't just listen to a song they like or an album they like once, they listen to it over and over again. And if they're consuming it on a streaming platform, that's consistent revenue generation.
Right. And I would also encourage artists to really pay attention to the quality of their music, because your music needs to live, right? If it's cheaply made music that maybe it's even successful in the moment and then just goes away and nobody ever listens to it again, that's not obviously going to benefit in the streaming market, right? You want to make music that stands the test of time, and then you want to be consistently releasing music to remind people that you're there, and that to remind people to go back to your catalog, to get your catalog back in favor of the algorithm, and to generate more streams. So the quality of your music, the quality of your brand, the deep connection with your fan base, right? You want a deep connection with your fans so they don't forget about you next year. You just want to have a brand that really resonates to the core of people, so that they'll always be a fan of what you do. And, I think the music today is just a really good time to be a music, man. There's just a lot of ways to win. Streaming just being one of them, but there's a lot of people being creative with how they're moving, and it's just dope to see.
Yeah, and on that note, I want to encourage everybody to follow us, join us. We have a lot going on, not just an upcoming tour where we come to your city, but also an upcoming contest called Collab for the Crown. We have a big announcement coming soon. I know we've been saying that, but it honestly is big. Obviously, we're giving out prizes, but the prizes this time around, I think, are doper than the last couple. So I'm excited for that. But definitely join the Facebook group. That's free. Music Entrepreneur Club on Facebook or musicentrepreneurclub.com. Use code MEC Podcast to join a couple sessions for free, premium sessions for free, where you talk to us directly.
Yes, sir. And hopefully, by next week, we'll announce the Collab for the Crown contest for sure. So this podcast, you guys are listening to this on Monday. By Sunday, we'll announce the Collab for the Crown contest. So locking that in and making that promise.
Cool. Stay tuned for more details on that. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. This is the MEC Podcast. Once again, I'm DJ Payne 1 here with Dame Ritter. We're out. Peace.